So here's cam phasers on a 3.5 Ecoboost. This is a 2013 model. It's the one with the plates without the external visible springs. Anyways, the way these things work is here we got our intake phaser, here we got our exhaust phaser. As you can see, the intake phaser has no springs because it doesn't need springs. It's turning clockwise like this. Both of them are going to be turning clockwise as shown. The covers here go on the front of them. So it's spinning clockwise, and as you can see with that, this is attached to the camshaft. This is going to rotate back, dropping that locking pin into the bore. So without any oil pressure going into this thing, it is going to retard the camshaft. Now, if you look at the specs, this is how far it retards the camshaft. Negative 58 degrees is when it drops in that hole, but that's with the solenoid energized. That means when this solenoid is energized with 12 volts, it has no oil pressure going to the solenoids, and that's true of both the intake and exhaust phaser. As you can see, the exhaust, when it's energized, is positive 52 degrees. Look at where those springs shove it. The springs shove it positive, and that's also where the locking pin drops in. I've pulled the locking pin. It has a pin and a spring. As you can see here, they go into that bore. Right now, if I can roll this back because it's removed. But anyways, with no oil pressure going to the exhaust, it's going to be fully advanced on this camshaft. And that's exactly what we have here with the solenoid energized. Now, solenoids, the oil pressure goes into the center of the solenoid, into this screen, and then out here. As you can see, this one's dirty. But that's how those work. Oil goes in the center and then out through those ports there. And that goes nowhere. If you were to unplug these solenoids, it sends full oil pressure to this camshaft and will advance the camshaft all the way until the scanner will read 0 degrees. Intake cam. On the exhaust, same thing. You send oil pressure, it compresses the springs and sends it from a positive 52 degrees to a 0 degree. I mean, it actually will go a little bit negative sometimes, but generally around 0 degrees. The oil pressure comes in right there, as you can see. So without oil pressure, you're not going to be able to advance this camshaft. Now this engine has both banks intake cam too far retarded. So it could simply be not enough oil pressure in the engine, or we have these clogged screens here, and that's preventing oil from getting to the phaser in order to have enough pressure to pop that pin out, because it has to have enough oil pressure to release the locking pin to then advance the camshaft, and then still enough pressure to advance against all the force of the valve springs. So make sure, if you have a 2 retarded timing code for a 3.5, that you have good base oil pressure before tearing into this thing.